This is fairly big news in the gaming sphere. And I want to qualify that statement because, the gaming sphere is not something that necessarily everyone cares about or is interested in. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's pertinent to a wider issue, all right? So for those of you that are not aware, a major streamer, his name is Dr. Disrespect, just got himself into a heap of trouble because he was caught allegedly speaking to an underage person, all right? Not in an appropriate way. And this streamer, this content creator, is someone who, for a very long time, I looked up to for inspiration, for pushing the bar in my own broadcast, which, I don't post streaming related content on this channel because, there's always more facets of our life than sort of the one key thing that we're identified for on social media. So for me, it's like my main thing is streaming, but I also want to be able to talk about other stuff outside of gaming. That aside, this was a person who I really looked up to in terms of improving as a broadcaster, a performer, an actor on stream specifically. And it was very heartbreaking to find out that he had done this thing. He had spoken inappropriately to someone he shouldn't have. And it was a bit of a wake-up call to remind me that, the people I look up to or that you look up to are human beings at the end of the day. And I don't mean that in the sense of excusing his actions in any way. It's a reminder that the people that we tend to look at as, to use an extreme term, infallible or wise or at the top of their game, there's a lot of factors we're not seeing that allow them to reach that point that may make them appear as though they are somehow superhuman, but really, they're just like normal people. And I got to qualify that again because, conducting yourself that way is not a normal thing. I guess how I'm trying to word it is they are capable of doing awful things just like everyone else. And I think Dr. Disrespect is a particularly strong example because he always portrayed himself as being this sort of larger than life character who could, I'm not going to say do no wrong, but was, more skilled, better looking, just the hyperbolic masculine attributes of, a cheesy 80s warrior. Like imagine Sylvester Stallone. And so the lines get blurred between a caricature and the archetype of someone that I'd say a lot of young men look up to, right? That sort of character that has those hyperbolized personality attributes. And so when a story like that comes out about that sort of person, it kind of rocks you to your core because suddenly everything that you have valued, that you've imbued in a single person, has now been turned over on its head. And, I'm very disappointed at what he did, but I do think, I want to reiterate, that it is a valuable lesson in remembering that the people that you know and the people you look up to are not perfect. And they make horrible mistakes and they lie. Some people don't lie necessarily because they're pathological. Maybe they have something that they're insecure about that they want to hide because they don't feel comfortable sharing it. Even if on the outside it seems like they have everything figured out. And I've noticed this a little bit as I've spent more years as a teacher where, some students obviously will look up to you more so than others, right? And the ones that really do make it apparent. And it's interesting to hear their reaction to, it's like sometimes I'll tell a story about how when I was a kid, something happened to me and I was really scared and I wasn't sure where my parents were. I didn't know how I was going to get out of the situation. And the kids are genuinely shocked. They're like, you were scared? How could you be scared? Because they don't think their teacher can be scared or, experience fear, things like that. And I know it sounds ridiculous. Like I'm using a sort of childlike example, but adults do this same thing all the time. They can do them with celebrities. They do it with their parents, how they perceive them. They do it with older siblings or, maybe the older cousin who seems like he's got everything going for him. He's got it figured out. But really, there's a lot of stuff possibly happening behind the scenes that you don't know about. And it's important to recognize that, because every time you get down on yourself, you feel like, oh, I'm not adequate. How does he get it? How does he do it? How does he know? Well, he probably at some point was in your position, had no idea what he was doing, hadn't the slightest clue how to sort of self-correct, anything like that. And maybe had to go through a really difficult trial. Now, granted, everything I'm describing is like totally normal. In the case of this huge internet celebrity, what he did was just, it was an awful mistake that really there's no coming back from. When you do something like that, when you endanger the most vulnerable members of our society, of our family, of kids, there's something really, it's irredeemable. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about that, just because it really, especially as a teacher, it makes me really uncomfortable to think about how awful human beings can be in that way. But I do think it's important to extract what that teaches us. And I'm kind of reiterating the same point over and over at this time, but I actually want to focus on how that affects you, what you can take away from it in a positive way. And it's that, look, there's a lot of great people that you can look up to that will provide you with valuable lessons, inspiration, things like that. But that's sort of where you have to draw the line. You can't, there's this whole discussion about parasocial relationships, or the way people interact online where they feel like someone is their friend, even though that person doesn't even know you exist, right? It's sort of the deal with streamers or with celebrities on Twitter. Like, they may kind of vaguely acknowledge your existence, like they know you looked at them because they have however million views, but they don't actually know you, the person. But because you were able to get sort of an insider connection, like they replied to you, it feels like a huge deal to you, the viewer. So what I'm trying to say is you have to draw the line as to how much value you're getting from this person, and not becoming obsessive or putting too much stock on them, because their outward appearance on social media, in movies and TV and all these things is just that. It's an outward appearance. It's all calculated to a degree. Some people they just post whatever, and maybe that is their authentic selves. But you never really know for sure, right? You can't actually verify what is performative and what is actually how someone acts. So make sure you draw that line for yourself and realize that the human being on the other side is fallible, just like you. And you shouldn't feel so bad if you haven't reached the level of success. Kind of like how I mentioned in a prior video, the people who are the most successful aren't necessarily the best ones to get advice from, because their situation is so anomalous. They don't even know all of the factors and circumstances that led to them getting to their spot. They may tell you, I worked really hard, I was patient, I put in the hours, things like that. I guarantee you there's someone else who did more of that and is still not successful. And the key component for this person's success versus another one is sometimes invisible. Other times it's obvious, but a lot of times it's invisible, especially to the person who you're looking up to. So just remember, there's a lot of things that you can't necessarily see that are possibly counting against you in your journey. What would be actionable from that? Keep going. Keep practicing your thing. Like I've said before, stay on that grind. Get whatever little feedback you can from the right people and run with it. Because some people have a meteoric rise to success, and others, they just got to take their time. And it's slow and steady, but as cringe as it sounds, the turtle won that race. So, you might be the turtle. Who knows? And your impatience could be the only thing holding you back. Anyways, hope you have a good rest of your day. Stay out of the heat like I'm trying to right now, and I'll see you in the next one.